Thank you, Tim. Buenos dias, good morning to you all. It is my great pleasure to be here this morning to moderate this two-day symposium, where we have the opportunity to discuss the conservation and challenges of this extraordinary artist, David Alfaro Siqueiros' work, both here and further afield. Welcome to the Getty. I'd like to reiterate Tim's welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. And we have this extraordinary group of people who are all united in this dedication and passion of bringing the work of Siqueiros to future generations, to existing and future generations. And we're really pleased that you could be with us here. So, muchas gracias. For us, the project here at the Getty that we're talking about this morning represents 25 years of work for us here. And for us here, some of the people involved here at the Getty, but for others that are speaking this morning, I think I'm right in saying it represents over 40 years worth of work and dedication to bringing this work back to life. And I would first like to introduce my wonderful colleague, Leslie Rayner, who Tim has already mentioned. Leslie is a wall paintings conservator and a senior project specialist here at the GCI, and as Tim said, was the project manager for us here, and has really driven this particular project. She's been involved in the project since 1995, and I think makes her the third out of the core team working on the work. I think with Jaime and Jesus and Tom, we have some of the people that have been involved in this continuously for the longest time. So Leslie's going to set the scene for the project that will be discussed here this morning. We've got a series of talks for about 20 minutes. We have a break in the middle, and then we'll be moving down to the site this afternoon where we can all have a look at the work that's been achieved there. So welcome, Leslie.
Here we go. All right, thank you, Susan, for the introduction. To begin the morning session on the challenges of conserving David Alfaro Siqueiros' monumental and very controversial mural, América Tropical, I'd like to present a brief introduction to the mural by providing some historic context and an overview of the project that the Getty Conservation Institute and the City of Los Angeles have been collaborating on for over, as Tim and Susan said, for over 20 years. In 1932, one of the great Mexican artists and muralists of the 20th century came to Los Angeles to teach fresco painting at Chenard Art Institute. While he was in Los Angeles, where is my little clicker? Here we go. While he was in Los Angeles, here we go. He actually painted 3 murals. The first, which was Street Meeting, and that was for the fresco class that he taught at Chenard, and Portrait of Mexico Today for a private residence in the Pacific Palisades. And most importantly for us today, he painted América Tropical, which was the largest and probably the most incendiary of the 3 murals that he painted. All 3 were very political, this perhaps the most. At the end of his 6-month stay, his visa was not renewed. 2 of the murals were destroyed. The one in Pacific Palisades stayed in quite good condition. But the public could not view his murals anymore. Siqueiros left Los Angeles, and he left behind the murals, covered and uncovered, as his legacy here in the US. So you're going to hear more about Street Meeting and Portrait of Mexico Today tomorrow. But this morning, we'll focus on América Tropical, which is the last one of the 3 to remain in its original location, accessible to the public after a turbulent 80-year history. So to give you some background, the mural América Tropical was commissioned for the Plaza Art Center by F.K. Ferenz to be painted on the 2nd-story exterior wall of the Italian Hall, which is located on Olvera Street. And Olvera Street is a little themed Mexican marketplace in El Pueblo de Los Angeles, the historic heart of the city. It had been recently developed at the time by a woman, Christine Sterling, as a tourist destination where visitors could buy leather goods, souvenirs, they could eat tacos and guacamole, much as they can still do today. And it was meant to be a trip to kind of a small village in old Mexico. To fit with this theme, Ferenc asked Siqueiros to paint a mural about tropical America, where the fruits of the land would fall into the hands of the people. There would be some señoritas and some caballeros. But Siqueiros, however, was an ardent political activist, as I've said, who expressed his revolutionary messages through his work. And instead, he painted this overgrown jungle. And I'm going to quote now from a review that was actually written at the time by a woman named Grace Clements, where huge twisted trees spread their branches in the direction of an ancient Aztec temple. Which is this pyramid in the middle of the scene. And in the center of the composition, above the ruins of the temple, are the outstretched wings of the American eagle, beneath whose fierce eye and carnivorous claw is the lynched figure of a Mexican peon, lynched to a double cross. And in the upper right corner of the roof is a red building with two crouching men, one wearing the Peruvian cap of South America, the other the sombrero of Central America and Mexico, and they aim with loaded rifles at the destructive bird. So that was what he gave them, instead of the nice, lush, peaceful, idyllic scene that they were looking for. And you can imagine that this did not go over well in 1932 Los Angeles. Within a little over a year, the mural was partially whitewashed, and it was the end of the mural that could be seen, that could be seen by the tourists on Olvera Street that first got whitewashed. As you would be walking down the street, they didn't want people looking up at those revolutionaries with aimed rifles towards that American eagle. So by the end of the decade, the mural, partially whitewashed, was then totally covered. And it remained whitewashed, neglected, and all but forgotten for over 20 years up on the Italian Hall. But by the mid-1960s, the whitewash began to fail, exposing the mural, to some degree at least, again. And at the same time, the Chicano mural movement was starting up, and art historian Shifra Goldman spearheaded early preservation efforts to save the mural. She rallied artists, filmmakers, and other preservationists to help her. A documentary titled América Tropical was made by filmmaker Jesus Trevino in 1971, and that told the story of the mural, and you'll hear from Jesus Trevino next about this chapter of the story. He also went to Mexico for the film and interviewed Siqueiros, who insisted that he did not want anyone to repaint his mural. But he did send a team of conservators from Mexico to Los Angeles to examine the mural for the documentary, and one of those conservators, Jaime Mejia Servín, is with us today, and we'll talk about his involvement in the early preservation efforts at the time. The conservators' assessment then was that due to the overall degradation of the surface, the mural could not be restored to its original appearance, but that it could and should be preserved and stabilized. With this recommendation and evaluations from other conservators who examined the mural over the years, Shifra Goldman and her group to save the mural began to seek funding for its preservation, and she asked El Pueblo Historic Park, the entity overseeing Olvera Street, to help her. It was at this time in the early 1980s that El Pueblo erected the first of what would be a series of protective shelters over América Tropical, while the project was under development and funding was secured for its preservation. In 1987, Jean Bruce Poole, who's the former curator at El Pueblo, approached the Getty Conservation Institute for assistance. And the GCI and the city of Los Angeles agreed to undertake a collaborative project to conserve, interpret, and provide public access to the mural through documentation, scientific study, conservation, design and construction of a protective shelter and a public viewing platform, and the design and installation of Interpretive Center. The long-term public-private partnership between the GCI and the city was able to put these different components into place, and you'll hear from Chris Espinoza, the general manager at El Pueblo, a little bit later this morning about how they did that and how they involved merchants on Olvera Street, various commissions, city departments, and a lot of other stakeholders. For its part, the GCI became involved in the project first by providing scientific analysis to identify the materials that Siqueiros used to paint the mural. And I'll talk about that after the coffee break. Also, over the course of the project, we've compiled a bibliography of Siqueiros murals in Los Angeles, and we've actually documented the mural extensively over time. And I'll also talk about that along with the conservation that we've carried out. We've carried out 3 phases of conservation in 1990, 2002, and 2012. The architectural firm Brooks plus Scarpa, actually formerly Pugh plus Scarpa, has designed and constructed a canopy to protect the mural from direct exposure to sunlight, rain, and birds, while allowing an unobstructed view from an observation platform on a nearby rooftop. Mark Buckland, who's one of the main architects for that project, will address some of the design issues of construction later in the morning, and Gary Lee Moore, the city engineer for Los Angeles, will discuss the engineering challenges of inserting these elements into a historic district. The América Tropical Interpretive Center, also known as ATTIC, tells the story of the mural in the context of the life and work of Siqueiros and was conceived and installed by IQ Magic. Tom Hartman will talk about that, his long involvement in the project, developing the center at the end of the morning session. The culmination of the efforts of the GCI and the City of Los Angeles was the opening of the site and the unveiling of América Tropical, once again to the public last week on October 9th, 80 years to the day after it was first unveiled to the public in 1932. So in a nutshell, this is the history of the mural and an overview of the project that we've just completed. In this morning session, we'd like to present to you the early preservation efforts and all of these different aspects of the collaborative effort of this city and of Getty Conservation Institute in their comprehensive project to conserve, protect, and interpret América Tropical. You'll hear about many challenges faced by the multidisciplinary team of conservators, architects, engineers, scientists, exhibit designers, documentation specialists, city staff, and the many others to bring this project to completion, bringing a holistic approach to a complex project to conserve the last of David Alfaro Siqueiros murals that's still accessible to the public in its original location in Southern California. So I'd like to just acknowledge some of the different organizations and firms who work together to make this project happen, and to move on and let you hear a little bit more about the story of América Tropical. Thank you very much.